2, 1. Hello, everybody. Broadcasting to you live from the spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, somewhere in between two oceans. My name is Brian Engelman, and this is the Unhappy Hour Sports Show here on the New American Media. Thank you so much for finding us. We have a special guest today. Zak Baris is joining us, and we're going to talk about the 12-0 Cleveland Cavaliers. Please make sure you're following our live show. It's youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. And once you're in the chat room, we can see your chats, respond to your chats, and bring you into the program. So we're going to talk Cavs today. We want to hear any of your thoughts. And then maybe at the end, maybe get a word or two on the Guardians and the Browns. But Zak Baris will be joining us. Here we go, today's show. Zak, how are you, sir?
Been good, man. Been really good.
Excellent. It's been a feeling good, feeling really good as well. It's a good time.
It was nice to have the Browns on a bye week, so we didn't have to watch them lose.
I love McNeil's post. Do you see the one where it was
7-10? We lost in the bye week. Bye week beat us.
Oh yeah, the bye week beats us. Or it's Dwight Schrute with his girlfriend, and he's looking at somebody else, and he turns back around. He's so excited that the Cavs are 12-0, and he looks back. The Browns are coming off their bye week. He's like, it's just it is an interesting time of the year. Buckeyes are doing okay, of course, but before we get into today's show, real quick, I want to show people this. These are sets of 4 The Unhappy Hour coasters for your man cave or bar, and this is a 1 of 100 pin. Only 100 will be made. If you shoot me a Venmo and $75, I'll send all 3 of these to you at Brian Engelman. So that being out of the way, Zak, it is exciting. The 12-0 Cavaliers. Let's just start with the Cavs. Like, we have so much to get caught up on the Yankees and Guardians and the Browns bye week and so many decisions. Are the Browns tanking? Can they turn it around? Who do they start at quarterback? But let's just stay happy. Let's talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. They knocked off the Chicago Bulls yesterday, and that was an awesome jumping, spinning, weird. It was like a 360.5 layup from Donovan Mitchell, and I tuned in the other night to watch the Cavs come roaring back against the Nets. Just a great, tough, gutsy team. We have a lot of angles to unpack here, but let me start with something. Let's take 3 steps back, and we'll build our way to what we're seeing this season. Can you just refresh all of our listeners who maybe they're casual basketball fans? They followed LeBron and whatever, and then they kind of sucked. Can you just discuss the rebuilding effort just in as tight as a way, compacted way as you want to, but which GM picked which players over which years, who's had growth when Donovan got here? Just kind of walk us through after LeBron. How did we get to this squad that's 12-0 today?
So it's been an extensive rebuild to say the least. So let's start out with the roster and how it was constructed. So the Cavaliers drafted Darius Garland with the 5th overall pick. The year LeBron left, I believe it was, after Colin Sexton. So originally, let's just say they drafted Sexton in 2000. There was the summer of 18. They drafted Colin Sexton. So he was on the roster. The following year, they drafted Darius Garland with the 5th overall pick. At that point, the Cavaliers were in the middle of a vast rebuild, to the point where they gave up a future first rounder for Jared Allen, who was a monster addition. I mean, just for a late first round pick.
Yeah.
And basically it was a throw-in in that deal. So that was a massive acquisition, as he's one of the big 4 on Cleveland's roster, as you could say. Then, they obviously drafted Okoro and then Evan Mobley. And Evan Mobley, could have gone number 1. You had Cade Cunningham go 1. You had Jalen Green number 2. And then you had Mobley go number 3. But any one of those guys could have fallen to the Cavs at 3. Mobley could have gone 1. Jalen Green at one point was projected to go 1, and then ultimately was decided it was Cade Cunningham. So the Cavaliers had a gold mine fall into their lap. There was really no bad pick with that. And Cade Cunningham's cutting into his own this year. But so Mobley fell to the Cavs. Obviously, the Cavaliers then proceeded also trade Larry Nance in a sign and trade where they signed Lauri Markkanen to a 4-year, $60 million contract. With the acquisition of Markkanen, the Cavaliers went from being in the cellar to all of a sudden in Mobley's rookie year looking like a really good team. Baker's staff did a great job with the team, got them out of the cellar, where they were, I believe, a 20-win team the year before, if I'm not mistaken, or right around 20 wins. And then you look and see the progress with adding Lauri Markkanen to the roster. And it was a fun season. It really was. The Cavaliers then decided to really improve. Donovan Mitchell had basically, we knew Utah wasn't going to re-sign him. They'd started in mass rebuild mode by trading Rudy Gobert and really reshuffling that roster and retooling it. And that was Danny Ainge's doing over in Utah. So Cavaliers proceed to trade Lauri Markkanen, Colin Sexton. Their first-round pick, Ojaye from Kansas, was involved in that trade as well, along with multiple future first-round picks and pick swaps.
All right, pause right there for 1 second. Don't lose track of where you're headed in your next sentence or two, because this is a great quick jump forward to just kind of remember how we got here. What did we lose in Markkanen and Sexton? Because I liked when they were here, and they've had success over there. But obviously we're 12-0. It was the right move. But what did we lose in these guys?
So Colin Sexton, you lost a bench player that was going to hit free agency anyway. The Cavaliers had no intention of paying $18 million a year to. You already knew that going into that. So the Cavaliers were going to try to move Sexton at will. At that point, they had no intention of resigning him. It was get rid of Colin and let's move on. He doesn't fit with this team. And I think the Cavaliers showed the year they made the play-in game and lost both of them that they were a better team without Sexton than they were with him. It was pretty evident.
And so the right decision was made there. And then Markkanen,
Markkanen's a star. Don't get me wrong. Lauri Markkanen is a great, great player. He'd be a perfect fit for this current team right now. He's a stretch 4, really plays like a 3. He can shoot the 3 well, does everything well. Utah has a gem in him, and they just re-signed him to a long-term deal.
Yeah, and a 15 mil. How much did he end up getting? You said it was 4 for 60. We got him at.
That was originally what the Cavaliers got him for 4 years ago.
Yeah, his new term is probably a little bit more than that, huh?
Yeah, he's a max player. He's a phenomenal player. He's an all-star.
But we kind of needed to make room for him to get
the
rest of the
and that was the thing, is that the Cavaliers also, Markkanen had a very good year at the Cavs, but wasn't an all-star level at that point.
Right.
I think he really blossomed in his own. Don't forget he was a replacement level player in Chicago. Don't forget when the Cavaliers made that trade, I remember going nuts how happy I was about the trade. But again, you look at the national media, they were like, that's a horrible trade for the Cavaliers. They didn't get enough. They traded, Larry Nance, and they got Markkanen in a first-round pick. Like, it wasn't enough. And Nance I always saw as a role player. I like Larry Nance, but I don't think Markkanen was valued enough in Chicago. I don't think he blossomed into the type of player he was until he got to Cleveland. That's when he really showed what he could do. I also think in a better system, he would have been even bigger of a star, but I'm not trying to knock on JB Bickerstaff here. Bickerstaff did get the Cavs out of the cellar, and so I don't want to knock on him, but at the same time, look at Kenny Atkinson's offense now.
And we're going to get to Atkinson as well.
Yeah, and I'm not there yet. My point is
such a
Markkanen had a very strong singular season here in Cleveland, and then you go and move him, and the opportunity to get a superstar and really get this team, getting into that next tier of teams was very important for Kobe Altman. And, and Dan Gilbert is part of the rebuild. They didn't want to be one of those teams that was stuck at 47, 48 wins. So, they took their chance on Donovan Mitchell, and obviously it paid off.
Pause on Mitchell. I often reference this just in various walks of life. You've been doing shows with the Unhappy Hour for many a year, Zach. We've covered a lot of stories over the years, and you have often referenced the Atlanta Hawks method of, just enough, what'd you say, 46, 47 wins?
Exactly the point.
Enough to get at the 8th spot, maybe the 7. You don't win
it's even enough to get to the 3rd or the 4th spot, but it's not enough to win.
Yeah, and it's not low enough to draft anybody of impact, and you're just kind of stuck in purgatory.
Yeah, it's exactly the team that they had with Joe Johnson, Kyle Korver. It's that team that Atlanta had in 2015 when they got swept by the Cavs.
Right.
That's exactly the team.
Okay.
With Al Horford, that's exactly the team.
Mm-hmm.
But and the Cavaliers were positioning themselves to be that team. You had the team 3 years ago that in that season where Darius Garland was a 21-year-old all-star. Jared Allen was an all-star at 22 years old. But again, it wasn't enough to get you out of, the middle of the Eastern Conference. You had elite teams like the Boston Celtics teams with elite talent like Philadelphia, Miami with Jimmy Butler, even the New York Knicks too with Jalen Brunson and some of their guys. And now you obviously look at a star-studded roster in New York. So the Cavaliers really had to make a move at that time. And that's why they went for the jugular and they said, okay, we're going to go for all or nothing. Let's see if this pays off. Donovan Mitchell's here for guaranteed 2 seasons. If he walks, he walks. We're pretty convinced he's going to stay. But, most people didn't think he was going to. The national media all thought he was going to leave.
Right.
They were obviously incorrect again. And Donovan has been in Cleveland, signed another 3-year extension with the Cavaliers and seems genuinely happy here.
Yeah. And people did not give him, and I've seen interviews with Donovan Mitchell. He's like, I've always said I enjoy it here. I don't know why people
He's
kept
a quiet guy. He's not one of those guys. Like, again, I've seen him out. Is what I can say. He's a quiet guy. This Cavaliers team fits really well together. This isn't the Hollywood Cavs that when LeBron returned, they were a very Hollywood-esque team. You had Kyrie Irving, you had LeBron, you had Kevin Love, you had J.R. Smith. Don't forget, you did have Mike Miller. You had Sean Marion. You had all those guys, at one point, on those rosters, Mo Williams, they were very star-studded rosters with players that were well-known around the NBA for years. And they were a Hollywood team, wherever they went, they were the focal point of everything. This Cavaliers team is young. It's a different team. It doesn't have the Hollywood aura of the Cavs teams when LeBron came back for the second time. So it's not that party atmosphere. It's not the A-list celebrity crowd that, everybody's going nuts over every night. It's a more under the radar team. And it's not a bad thing to have. The Boston Celtics are kind of like that. And they won the title last year.
Oh yeah. Yeah. I mean,
same thing with the Nuggets a couple of years ago. It's not the Milwaukee Bucks with Giannis and Damian Lillard who, can't make it out of the first round, second round of the playoffs. They won 3 years ago during the COVID year, Giannis won, but they haven't been back since, which is still crazy to me.
Yeah. I mean, you could have all the hype of the, Colorado and Neon Dion over there, or you could just be quietly kicking ass 12-0. I mean, I would rather be quiet. I don't like when teams get too full of themselves. I don't,
and that's what happened with the Warriors after a few years. It was just, they were a Hollywood team. They were great. They lit the show. They lit the stage every year on the show. And that's what they did. It was those Showtime Laker type teams. And it's not a bad thing to have that. But again, when you lose, it's not a good look. The Lakers have that now. The Lakers have a lot of star-studded power, but, between LeBron and Anthony Davis, but they're not a great team. They're an average team.
Right.
They're middle of the road playoff team. And it's not a knock on the Lakers. I'm just saying, look at the Phoenix Suns last year. You had all this star power and what happened with them?
Yeah. I mean, there's something that can be said about chemistry. I know the Browns have been criticized for trying to make moves that might make sense analytically, like from the DePodestas coming down a beam counter. But like, there's something about continuity. You look at the Steelers and it's like, you got a lot of the same coaches speaking a lot of the same language around a lot of the same people. There's a lot of continuity, and it's like you kind of get through it together. When you're constantly adding Odell Beckham and moving Baker and bringing in Deshaun and here's Amari Cooper, and it's just like bang, 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 bang.
Well, Dorsey did that to the Browns.
It's hard to get a rhythm and like momentum.
Exactly. Dorsey did that to the Browns in 2021. You remember all the eyes were on the Browns that year, and everybody, and they got trampled by the Titans in week 1. I don't want to get off focus with the Cavs here, but I'm just saying when you have those Hollywood rosters, it brings a lot of attention to you, a lot of unnecessary attention.
Yeah.
And it makes your expectations sky high.
And so the Cavaliers aren't quite like that, but I mean, we have several stars here.
Well, don't forget the 2015 Warriors were not that star-studded team. They came out of nowhere, really. Everybody was expecting the Spurs to be in the title that year with Kawhi Leonard, and Ginobili and those guys. Everybody was expecting them to be. Nobody was expecting the Warriors to come out, and they won, 66 games that year?
Yeah, and once you're there, now you are the king of the mountain. Yep. You're at the top. But they've made leaps. This team has gotten a lot better, and I want to figure out, like, Darius Garland, what caused his
also,
leap.
here's what differentiates the Cavs in years past now. You look at it, Garland was an all-star, 3 years ago. He hadn't gotten back to that form because of injuries, learning how to play with Donovan. And also, JB's offensive system was not what Kenny Atkins is. Kenny Atkinson is a run and gun system. It's a lot of quick ball movement, a lot of really, I mean, they're getting a ton of open shots. Karis LeVert shooting 56% on the season.
Nice.
I mean, he's been phenomenal. And, and don't forget, I believe Karis played for Kenny Atkinson in Brooklyn, if I'm correct. And so you go back a few years and, you really see that Bickerstaff didn't really have an offensive system. Yes, I'm grateful that he got the Cavs out of the cellar, but it's kind of like the Doug Collins model and same with Mark Jackson in Golden State. You brought in Steve Kerr in Golden State to replace Mark Jackson. Look what happened to them. You did the same thing with Michael Jordan and when you replaced Doug Collins with Phil Jackson. And now it's the same thing, with the Cavaliers now with Kenny Atkinson replacing JB Bickerstaff. Their ball movement's incredible. They've scored over 130 times, over 5 times this season, which they've never done this season before an 82 game season.
And by the way, like we've had LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love. Like it's not like the Cavs have had a couple of decent seasons with Mark Price and Brad Daugherty.
Yeah,
we're talking about like the best of the best that we've
Yes.
ever seen, taking down the best team in the league, the Golden State Warriors.
I mean, they were up by 41 points at halftime, which was the stunning part. I mean, let's be honest here. Nobody predicted in their right mind that the Cavaliers would be up by 41 points at halftime.
I mean, everything went right.
And it's been going right all season, even when it's going wrong. Last year, the difference is the Cavaliers would hold these 15, 20-point leads in the fourth quarter and then blow them.
Mm-hmm.
That was the difference. Bickerstaff, they'd play hero ball or ISO ball, with Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland every time. And then all of a sudden, it would just force the double team. Cavs didn't know what to do. They weren't running the offensive sets with any ball movement. It was just ISO ball. Kind of remind you of the LeBron Kyrie years, except with less talent, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Around them. And that's exactly what it reminded me of, except LeBron playing ISO ball and Kyrie, they're the 2 best ISO ball players in the league.
Fact. Right.
Different story. So you could get away with it back in the day. You can't.
And I think that you were starting to say, even when it's not going right, it's going right. I think that's the difference between being back on your heels and leaning forward into forcing the other team to make a mistake. And if you keep the pressure on in that way, you will end up successful if you're leaning forward instead of on your heels.
Exactly. And what differentiates the team this year is the ball movement. They're running sets in the fourth quarter. And also Kenny Atkinson's relying a lot on his bench. Ty Jerome has blossomed into arguably the best backup point guard in the NBA this season.
Yeah. Talk about him for a second.
He's been incredible. He's simply incredible. I mean,
what's his backstory? How did we like what's his story to get to our team today?
I mean, they've had Ty Jerome for a few years now. And, if you look at him, like last year, he was mildly efficient, nothing special. And what's funny is they got him from Golden State.
And what was the transaction? How did we end up getting him?
I believe it was free agency.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got him pulled up on the screen here. He's averaging 10 points, 2 rebounds, 3.5 assists on 60% field goals.
He is
60.8 field goal percentage.
It reminds you again of those 15 Warriors when they had Barbosa as the backup point guard running the second unit. Very reminiscent to that. And and that's where you go from there. And you also look at the rest of the bench too. This is a team that's very similar to the 15 Warriors in terms of they have a lot of star power, but also their bench was so incredibly deep. Go look at that team and this team, they're playing 10 to 12 deep every single night.
I like
Dean Wade's on the action. Tristan Thompson's even playing. They're getting their whole bench. Sam Merrill's involved. The whole roster seems to be involved and they're all coming together and playing well. Okoro, all these guys are playing at a high level this season, which they all, they're all fitting their roles properly now. And that's what's so unlike other years under Bickerstaff. And by the way, I'm not saying JB's a bad coach. JB just wasn't a fit to take this team to the next level. He's done a phenomenal job in Detroit this year. Detroit's winning some basketball games this year. Last year, they lost almost 30 games in a row at one point.
Right.
The Pistons were historically bad last year.
They were.
And Cade Cunningham looks like he's coming into his own. Now, does that mean Bickerstaff can't win an NBA championship? I'm not saying he can't. Not this year, obviously. But in the future, maybe he can. But Atkinson is a better fit for this particular team than JB Bickerstaff. That is my point.
So I guess looking at this,
and also the development of Evan Mobley, that was the other thing. Evan Mobley looked like he had reached his ceiling under Bickerstaff. There was no development from his rookie year to last year. And that was a huge problem. From his rookie year, you were looking, wow, this is a future superstar in the league. And now he's playing like it. Defensively, he could win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he has been playing lights out every night. Offensively, he just looks so much more muscular this year. Around the basket, he's able to finish.
Yeah, and I'm noticing something that I didn't see enough of. Maybe he had versions of this, but I've never seen him as confidently do these massive, wide sweeping spin moves. Where
Yes.
he gets the ball, he takes one dribble, a half step, a half swivel, and he goes from the 3-point line to making a layup. And you're going, holy shit. He covers so much room when those legs spin around each other at the hip. That is a spin move. Now it's super effective, but I worry about an injury, an ankle, something like there's so much extension with so many people running around. But my God, that move seems devastating.
And that's the thing is he has learned, his post moves are so much different than they were a year ago. He looks like a totally new player. It looks like the player we expected to see on the court 2 years ago.
And why has he been able to improve so much? What has done it for his game? Why did maybe addition by subtraction with Bickerstaff? What has allowed him to take this? It's a massive leap.
It's also last year when they ran the offense for Mobley, he could dominate and punish at the rim. They just weren't running the offense through him last year. This year they are. The offense shifts between Mitchell, Mobley, and then Garland is your number 3 option. That's exactly where it's gone. And Darius is also playing back at an all-star level again.
Okay, and talk about Darius. Why was he off last year? We heard
multiple
family thing. There was the injury with
multiple injuries, also a system that didn't favor him. He was playing off ball a lot. This year he's playing much more on ball. And it's really and it's really been great to see.
Yeah, the Darius Garland from 2 years ago is very different from the guy last year. He was very I don't know, he seemed as unsure of himself as Deshaun Watson. Now maybe not at that bad. Deshaun, it's like
it was not nearly that bad.
No, not nearly that bad.
It looked like he didn't fit in the system. And by the way, after the Cavaliers gave him a max deal, in order to trade him at his lowest value, you don't trade a player when their value's at a low. It's like selling a stock. Like Brian, for example, you buy a stock at $40 a share, it goes up to 50, and then it drops down to 15. Are you going to hold it or are you going to sell it right then when it's at its lowest?
Right. Yeah, you wait, you're hoping that it's going to go back up, get you to 50, 60 and beyond. Yeah, you don't take your biggest loss possible and run away with it. And Darius, man, he just looks so, I guess the word I'm looking for is confidence.
It's confidence. He's back to playing an all-star level. Don't forget, this is a guy that just 3 years ago was an all-star.
Yeah.
He is back to playing at an all-star level. He's been in the league 5 years now, and he's back to playing at an all-star level. That's what's crazy is you knew the talent was there, and had the Cavaliers given up on him, well, and let's just say they would have traded him to San Antonio for a bag of balls. Now you see why the Spurs wanted to pair him with Wembanyama.
Oh, geez. Could you imagine? I guess where does the Cavs offense? You said it, so it's best when it flows through Mobley now, because we have 3
Mitchell. It goes through Mitchell as the primary, offensively. Then you have Mobley, then Garland, and that's where the offenses flow through. Garland can run the ball up anytime, but you're even watching Mobley bring up the floor on occasion too.
Yeah,
and he's able to take it straight to the hole. His passing's improved, but if you just look at their ball movement overall, also the improved play of Karis LeVert and Ty Jerome has given them the best second unit in the league.
I remember that, the LeBron years, we usually had the best second unit in the league. It would
there's no
Williams
there's no telling what this team can do this year with the development because they're such a young team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and look, 12-0 is 12-0. We couldn't ask for a better start. I guess we could maybe nitpick and find some problems, but look, they are what their record says they are. Atkinson, what's the reason why his mentality has worked here? What has it unlocked? Are there any assistant coaches we're not thinking about who maybe personally worked with Mobley in the offseason?
I mean, it could be Damari Carroll. Damari Carroll's been here, if you remember him back from his days with the Atlanta Hawks.
Yeah.
With the Brooklyn Nets. They just overall, again, it's looking like this team, when you watch a first round pick, for example, in any sport and watch him have his progress, and develop into the player. And sometimes it's again, it could be in any sport. We've witnessed guys that, have done nothing with one team. Look at Lauri Markkanen with the Bulls into the Cavs.
Yeah.
Lauri Markkanen went from being a lottery pick, had a great rookie season, not much else after that. And then all of a sudden, didn't do much over in Chicago. And then all of a sudden comes to Cleveland and plays lights out because he's in a better system and a better fit for him. It's all about fit in the NBA. I mean, we can look at certain players and say, okay, this player's not a fit here. This player's not a fit here. And they go to another team. It's the culture of an organization and how you develop a player. We've witnessed failure multiple times with players in certain systems and certain teams. There are organizations where players go to just fail and then they go to another organization. It's like, wow, complete transformation.
Right. Yeah, it's been something to watch. Has there been one game on the season that's been more impressive than any of the others?
I would think the Warriors, the Celtics win too on the road.
Okay, start with the Warriors, because the comments that were coming out from their camp, they kind of saw shades of themselves when they were playing this Cavs team. Like there was some high praise coming out. I think Draymond and Kerr, like there were a lot of quotes.
Well, really and again, like I said, this is very reminiscent of the 2015 Warriors. It's a team that don't forget, the Cavs went 0-4 in the preseason. They didn't win.
Right. Yeah.
They did not win.
Whereas the Cleveland Browns, traditionally, they can be the.
Yeah, I'm sorry, they have not played the Celtics yet. I was talking about the Lakers win earlier in the year and at New York. That was
there's the Lakers, there's New York, and then there's also Bucks back to back. I know the Bucks are,
and the Bucks are struggling right now out of the gate, but it's good to force them down because they are in your division. Yeah. And again, if the Cavaliers play 500 basketball the rest of the way, they're a 47-win basketball team.
Yeah, that's a good spot to be in for sure.
So they have that dominant win over the Lakers. They had the comeback win over the Knicks, which was really, really impressive. When they came out and won by 30 points against the Raptors, that's a game they would have probably lost a year ago.
Right.
Winning the Pelicans on the road was an impressive win too. The Magic were without, obviously they're without Banchero, but it was still a win. And that's the thing, is most of their wins have been very impressive this year.
So who's on the schedule coming up that we might want to?
They've got the 76ers coming up at Philly, but Joel Embiid's suspension is up, but Tyrese Maxey will be out. So that's again, I don't want to say any game is not winnable. It's not easy to go on the road to Philly, but again, then you're at home versus the Bulls and the Hornets, and then you're at Boston on the 19th.
It's a good spot to be in. What are the chances of coming out of the East now? I mean, like what?
Again,
we're jumping ahead of ourselves, but
the East has not been playing well right now. I mean, don't forget, it's going to take a little while for the Knicks to click. You added 2 All-Stars and made a big, big change in that team. But, right now you've got the Cavaliers. You've got Boston's the defending champs. So, obviously, Boston, I don't care what anybody says. The Celtics are still the favorite in the East. I don't care what anybody says. Until someone beats them, they're the favorites in the East. And they're 9-2. They're no slouch. Okay? You have the Pacers, who are 5-5, but they're a very, very talented team as well. You've got the Cavs. You've got the Knicks. And I would say, in Milwaukee, they're just playing terrible basketball. And Philly's not playing good either. They haven't been healthy. So those are the teams I would say that'll be there at the end of the year. I don't think the Heat are that good this year. The Hornets are a young team. The Bulls are, again, mediocre. Pistons, again, young, not very good. The Nets, not very good. The Magic, when they have a healthy Banchero, will be a fun team to watch. They gave the Cavs a run for their money last year in the playoffs, and they played very, very well.
Oh, yeah. That was a team.
They're an up-and-coming team in the Eastern Conference with the Wagner brothers. They're, Jalen Suggs. They're a tough team. And Banchero's a superstar. He really is. And coming out of the West, obviously, you have the juggernauts and the Thunder, the Warriors, and the Suns. And obviously, the Nuggets are a very good team. The Rockets are an up-and-coming team. Grizzlies with a healthy John Moran will be fun to watch. I believe he's hurt, though, right now. Lakers are the Lakers. And Timberwolves, again, just traded Karl Anthony Towns. So they're mixing in with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo in a new role, too. And Sacramento's a decent team, too. So, and also you have Dallas. That's another conference I think is very good. I'm actually surprised at how bad the East is this year so far to start out the year. I figured, the Cavaliers have a 6.5 game lead of the 7th seed. Yeah. Already, and they have a 6.5 game lead on the number 4 seed in the Magic, and a 6 game lead on the 3 seed. The only team that's even in striking distance of them right now are the Boston Celtics at 9-2.
Yeah, the champs, exactly. I mean, this team has been resilient. It's been fun to watch. We've been kind of trudging through some Cavalier basketball. We've had talent, but it's not a matter of going out and winning a couple of games. It's about trying to compete for the point of every season is to go get a championship.
No, and absolutely. And I think that's what's changed with this Cavaliers team is obviously we've seen it with coaching before. We've seen it with Michael Jordan's Bulls. We saw it with the Cavaliers in 2016 in the middle of the season when they made the switch from Blatt to Lou. We've witnessed it with, we witnessed it when, when certain coaches have taken over other teams. I mean, again, when you have a coaching change, sometimes it fires teams up.
Yeah.
And again, the Cavaliers are running a great system. It's not this ISO ball through LeBron where it didn't matter really who the coach was at the point. But look at what Steve Kerr did with the Warriors when he took over from Mark Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
Total change.
Yeah. And we're rolling with it. I mean, Dan Gilbert buying the Cavs, and I mean, he really puts an investment into the team.
Listen, Gilbert has made mistakes, but at the same time, he has had patience this time around with Kobe Altman. And again, when you give a GM patience, who's obviously constructed a pretty impressive roster, people were calling for his head after last year's playoffs. Don't forget that people were calling to fire Kobe Altman, which I thought was ridiculous. I understood where they're coming from, but at the same time, I'm like, you're not going to find a GM that's more talented than Kobe in his front office.
Right.
You've got a very, very talented front office there. And Mike Gansey, Brandon Weems, that's a talented group of guys that don't come around every day. It was like the same thing when he got rid of David Griffin. That was a move I wouldn't have made at the time, but and Kobe struggled out the gate. He had some poor trades. Obviously the Kyrie Irving trade wasn't good, but he learned fairly quickly and had this team competing again within 3 years, which is it's very impressive what he's been able to do.
Yeah, it takes a minute to reconstruct rosters. These contracts you can't just move pieces. You're really locked into an advanced game of calculus.
Absolutely.
That's what the bean counters have to go through, the cap space and all the year. It really is like just hiring a bunch of attorneys to try to figure out how to manage a team.
That's exactly what it is. And again, it's bringing the right talent, following your scouts' leads, and doing everything that you're supposed to do. Again, there are guys who are wrong all the time. We've witnessed some terrible trades in the NBA over the years.
Oh, yeah.
And the Cavaliers have been on the wrong side of many of those in the past. This time around with this current front office, you can't really nitpick it. A lot of their moves have been very good. You look at Bob Myers when he was the GM of the Warriors. What mistakes did he make as GM of the Warriors? Did he make any? Really, honestly, did he make any mistakes?
I mean, how many championships could you credit? 4?
Yeah. Danny Ainge, when he was with the Boston Celtics, made a few mistakes, but ripped teams off in trades. It's the same thing. I mean, look what he did. He was an unbelievable at drafting. I mean, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. I mean, the list just goes on and on with those Celtics teams. And Brad Stevens has done an incredible job there too. You have smart front office and they do a good job. Look what Leon Rose has been able to do with the New York Knicks. I mean, that went from a team that was cooked, salary cap problems all of a sudden, not being able to attract free agents like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. Right. And all of a sudden, look what he's able to do, the turnaround by signing Jalen Brunson, a move that people ripped, for them overpaying for Brunson. Well, Brunson turned into a superstar overnight.
Well, and remember moving Porzingis a couple of years before that. I mean, there have been some big moves in the Big Apple trying to figure out how can they become as competitive as like the Patrick Ewing Knicks. How can you get close?
And they've done that. They're at the point where they're an elite team in the East, especially now. I mean, again, I have to say this, they need some time to gel. When you add, 2 players of the caliber they added this offseason, it changes around the game, and that's the point. I mean, again, their roster is just full of talent. When you add Mikal Bridges, you add Karl Anthony Towns, you lose a bit of your bench too. So it's going to take some time to really, really come together. But I love their starting lineup.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I guess, are you a little surprised, Kenneth? Yes, we're going to be talking politics today. That's on our other show. We're currently on the Unhappy Hour Sports Show. And roughly around 3:30, we'll bring in Blake Wally, and we're going to do the Agree to Disagree show covering some of the Trump appointment picks and all of that stuff on that program. What's up, Kenneth? What's up, Nine Jaw? Thanks for joining us in the chat room. Are you surprised? Maybe it's some of the bottom feeding teams in the West. I was just kind of looking. You got the Spurs. Obviously, they're young, but Wemby's anchoring the rebuild.
But again, they're still very young. Let's not.
Pelicans and the Mavericks. You got some talent on these teams.
The Mavericks aren't going to suck for long. I mean, don't forget the Mavericks, last year were kind of middle of the road towards the end of the year until the end of the year. And they really started to pick it up. They're 5-5. I wouldn't call that being in the cellar. They also have an average margin of victory of 4 points. They're not struggling. They just happen to be, the record just happens to be 500. It's early. Okay. I mean, Portland stinks. The Jazz stink. The Spurs stink. There's a lot of average teams in the West. And there's a lot of above average teams. I think you have 3 to 4 elite teams in the West. Obviously, OKC, Phoenix, and Golden State. I don't think Dallas is elite. I think Dallas is very good, but I wouldn't put them in elite. The Thunder this year are going to come out hot. They remind me of that, of those young Cavs teams, back in the day when they had LeBron. Obviously, they have Shea. They're totally different in that realm, but it just in terms of progressing. Right. When LeBron was still super young, obviously they're putting up great regular seasons, but they weren't ready for the playoffs. I think this team with Chet Holmgren, Jalen Williams, they're a very, very strong team.
Does that remind you of when where the hell was I going with that? I was going to talk about the young.
It kind of remind me of a younger Celtics
and
team.
The energy. I was going to ask you, does it remind you of the young Thunder from Oklahoma City when you
It does a lot that couldn't get out yet. That has a ton of star power that will eventually get out. Don't forget the Thunder did make the championship in Durant's 3rd or 4th year in the league.
Oh, okay. Fourth? Yeah, they were one play. They went to the 7th game, right?
No, they almost went 5. They lost to the Heat. LeBron's second year in Miami.
No, I mean they went to the title. Like they made it right up to the edge of.
Yeah. They made it to the title and never made it again after they traded Harden.
Yeah. And those players have been traded a lot in the years.
But if you look at what they've been able to do in reconstructing that roster, I think Sacramento is one of those teams that's another very, very good under the radar team. Clippers, I think, are again an average team after losing Paul George,
have you never know. Been to the new stadium over there?
I have not been there yet to the Intuit Dome. I would love to check it out.
Looks interesting. And that wall where it goes straight up like a college.
Well, what's cool is actually, this changed the topic a little bit, but I want to make it very clear. But if you look at the Browns' new stadium in the Brook Park renderings, the Browns have the wall in the dog pound.
I don't know that I looked at it that closely.
Go look at it again. They have the wall.
And we've lost the real dog pound energy that we used to have.
And again, we don't have the dog pound energy anymore, but if you go look, the Browns have the wall in the new dog pound in the new stadium. So it was kind of a takeoff of that with the Clippers. So if you go look, it's in there. I don't think many people have noticed it.
I did.
Brian, why don't you go pull up renderings of the new stadium real quickly while you're at it so you can see?
Sure. I'll on.
Just as we change focus for a teeny bit here, but if you go look, the Browns do have this wall.
All right, well, let's talk about are we done on the I wanted to ask one final question about the NBA. Bronny, I love focusing on the Cavaliers. LeBron has been a Cavalier. Bronny gets over to USC. He has a heart condition. People are concerned he'll never play. Lakers draft him. Some people say, "Oh, I can't believe they," and have gripes about it. It's like you spent a late 2nd round pick.
Listen, you spent the 55th pick in the draft to please the greatest player of all time. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Okay. And by the way, I think it was an awesome moment when he drained his first bucket here in Cleveland. And by the way, what the Cavaliers did, you want to talk about
and we were cheering for him. How cool was that?
Everybody was cheering for him. And by the way, also they gave him the net. The Cavaliers cut the net and gave it to him from his first game. From his first basket ever. That's pretty cool. And the fact that it happened in Cleveland is a special moment for him in his hometown. I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome too. And
I don't think people need to shit on Bronny. I'm sick of it, to be honest with you. The kid
optimizes my.
Go ahead.
The kid he's a young kid, and he's put himself in a very, very tough situation. Where he's at. So for him to come through with that is impressive.
And by the way, before I have this rendering pulled up on the screen here, we'll watch it. But before we switch out onto it, I just, I got plenty of issues with LeBron. I think he's super douchey when he gets into politics. I can't stand it. A very divisive dude. He got wrapped up in all this stuff that really turned a lot of people away from sports. Also, he's the only player to lead a championship team for Cleveland in my entire lifetime. Forever appreciative, and I consider him to be the greatest all-around basketball player ever.
You don't need to agree with everything he does,
Exactly.
okay?
And
but you know what? He helped rescue the city of Cleveland. He helped save the Cavaliers from moving when he was drafted here. A lot of people don't know that, but Gordon Gunn was, at the time, was attempting to move the Cavs to San Jose.
Ugh,
so be very grateful for LeBron in Cleveland. I don't understand the hate for him. I do the first time around. I was one of those. I was not happy.
Yeah, the not 1, not 2, not 3.
After 1 year, I was done. I was over it. I was like, okay, let's end this. He came back, he rectified his mistake, or and he came back and he did what he had to do. And that was the 4 most fun years of basketball we've ever had here. And we're incredibly spoiled because of it.
Exactly. So thank you for that. And my point on Bronny is just, it's a cool story. Has there ever been an NBA player play with his kid in the same game?
No.
Yeah, not to my knowledge that I'm aware of either. Most people don't have 18, 19, 20-year careers in the NBA. Let's start with that. And even if so, what are the chances their kid's any good? But I think it's a great story. He could have died on that court at USC.
And again, be grateful that he's
immediately, get him in the game, get the stats, get the record, send him down to the G League and let him improve. Like,
that's what they're doing.
He has the ultimate DNA. Give him a shot. See if he can turn into something.
It didn't cost the Lakers any wins. They put him in blowout time against the Cavs when they were down by 25-30.
How many minutes does the last player on the bench contribute in a season? Very little.
Yeah,
most of the time.
People need to stop with this stuff. Like,
I agree.
Listen, it's a cool moment.
It is.
Let's call it what it is. Other than that, it doesn't matter.
All right, let's go to the rendering here, and we can keep talking over top of it. But once again, we're now shifting gears to the Cleveland Browns, also known as the Brook Park Browns. Pinkies is very excited about this move, but this is a rendering here showing you the olden days. Of course, hyping Cleveland up. I could jump ahead, but I know they keep peppering it through this video with different renderings.
I see someone says, does he sponsor LeBron? No, I do not sponsor LeBron. I'm very grateful for having him bring a championship here.
I agree. I agree with that completely. So here's an overview. This is the stadium dug into the middle of
you're the stadium to the right. Those are all the multifamily and hotel and office.
And this is Brook Park, right? Just dropped into Brook Park, Ohio. All right. So here's the drone view. Yeah, I mean, this is building an entire city.
Again, in an area that doesn't have it right now. I think it's very good for the west side of Cleveland. And, and now it gives Cleveland another area, kind of like, Crocker Park or Uptown Cleveland, and Uptown, if you've been Uptown lately over by the clinic, has been booming. Cleveland's second downtown.
Cleveland's second downtown. So walking up to it, say that part again.
It's new build after new build. You go there right now. There's 6 construction cranes, over there.
But you look at this complex, Zach, and it's like, you could do a million things here. It doesn't just have to be football.
It's not going to just be football. It can host the Final Four.
Yes.
It can host major concerts that you're not getting here in Cleveland right now.
Look at all that middle open space to congregate and hang out before the game instead of being at some parking lot. You're like actually in the middle of it. Now, obviously, there's still parking lots, but I'm just saying. All right. But yeah, as you kind of drop into the stadium, it reminds me of going to like Lucas Oil Field or something.
Yeah, this is a big improvement on Lucas Oil Stadium. Now, that's a thing. This should be the premier NFL venue. This is Minnesota on steroids.
I've never been to Minnesota. It sounds like something I'd like to do. Also, Jerry Jones with his, that they're saying that they don't have enough shading on the windows. And
Brian, keep it rolling over here. I want to show everybody this wall.
Yeah. All right. Doing the 360 view here on the Cleveland Browns Stadium. So it's open. You can see right in. Is it retractable dome or no?
No, it is not.
Do you want it retractable?
No, don't care.
Why not?
I don't care. I've been to multiple domes. I've been to Atlanta, Arizona,
natural grass,
Houston, SoFi. I've been to all these domes. I have to tell you right now, I've been to Las Vegas. Doesn't matter to me. I don't mind watching football indoors. Right there. There's the wall.
Oh,
you didn't even realize, did you?
I honestly, I saw renderings. I gave it a glimpse. I didn't really spend too much time on it.
But you didn't realize they had the wall there with about 100 rows going straight up in one deck.
So that's your dog pound right over here.
Mm-hmm.
You said 100 rows going up in one. Now they're showing the Final Four.
Mm-hmm.
Now they're showing
what would be the equivalent to the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Say it again.
which would be the equivalent to the Sphere in Las Vegas.
Ah, okay. And then here it's like a gaming, like a streaming thing, competition, a big concert. Yeah,
Rock Hall induction ceremony.
Damn right it better be.
WWE.
And they're just showing you, look, this is what it could. And look at all this congregation space, all of this area here. I mean, around Cleveland,
away from downtown,
now,
but it's a much needed area that needs improvement in a very blue collar area of Cleveland.
And that's near the Ford plant, right? And there's nothing going on.
It is on the Ford plant. Also, what people also don't realize is Cleveland has a $3 billion addition coming to the airport starting this December.
All right, so let unpack both of these real quick. So this is on the Ford property. Is this correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So it's just sitting there vacant. And since they couldn't turn it into Ford, they're going to turn it into Brownstown.
Yes.
And what was the second point you were making just there?
Don't forget that Cleveland is doing a $3 billion addition / new airport next door.
And what's that? What's the new? Hold on, a new airport or
Cleveland is adding on to their airport a $3 billion renovation / addition to the airport starting in December.
And what's that going to do?
So they're adding multiple new gates, a new terminal. It'll be a much larger airport.
Okay.
Because Cleveland's airport sucks. Hopkins is horrible.
Yeah. So by the way, looking here now, they got it lit up for Christmas and ice rinks.
It's a destination, Brian. That's exactly what it is.
Exactly.
It's a destination.
And you stay at this hotel, you stay at that hotel. Here's another big outdoor concert outside of the stadium. This is like, you don't even need to rent that venue. The outdoors is a venue. I mean, there's a million things you could do if you plan it right.
Again, there's tailgating pods outside. This is something the game day experience would be so much more improved than being downtown. I hate to say it because I'm an advocate for downtown. I live downtown. But again, coming from being at 4 of the last 5 Super Bowls, and only one of them was in a downtown location, being in Las Vegas off the Strip. I got to tell you, it didn't even affect. People were still staying in downtown at each location. Or, for example, Arizona, the stadium's 40 miles away in Glendale. We got on this topic last time with John Telich, and, SoFi is in Inglewood. This is very similar to Inglewood.
Right.
In terms of the areas are totally different, but next to the airport. It's shifted away from downtown. It doesn't need to be downtown. There's nowhere to put the stadium downtown. Burke Lakefront Airport is 12 years away, so it's not feasible.
And I like as you're going in here, now you drop down into the stadium. It's all like in a bowl dropped in there. That I just want to show that wind in. Here you go. It's just neat looking at it, envisioning that you drop into the Roman Colosseum instead of having it up. You're climbing 7 flights of stairs. Now you're just climbing down. You're taking an escalator down. It's an interesting concept. By the way, how fun was that conversation with John Telich, one of the greatest?
He's awesome. Hey, Brian, I got to get rolling. I've got to get back to work, but I just wanted to thank you again for having me on today, and more than happy to come on again soon if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to do this more often, Zach. I know we had a nice rhythm for a while, and then the rhythm got, life gets in the way, right? But yeah, whatever we could do to find a way to maybe set something weekly, monthly, whatever works best for both of us. It's been too long, and the Cavs are awesome. I want to talk more basketball. We're talking about the Browns, but look, they're 2-7. We can talk about them later. That's not
the Browns are an afterthought right now to me, to be honest with you. I couldn't care less about them.
Agreed. And next time we chat, we can maybe do an autopsy on the Guardians, who made it to the AL championship, of course, and then maybe talk a little Buckeyes, because they compete for a national championship as well. Okay, Zach, I guess if anyone wants to follow your interesting opinions, you have an X, but is it private? I'm trying to remember.
Private.
But how would someone work their way into your universe through X if they
just
come
approve
through
them as a follower?
Do what?
Or just approve them as a follower?
Perfect. So it's at Z Baris, ZBARIS.
That is correct.
All right, Zach, thank you very much. To be continued. Go Cavs.
Thanks again, Brian.
Take care, man.
Bye.
There he goes, everybody. Zak Baris. That was awesome. Man, I love talking Cavaliers. It's been too long. Zach and I, during those LeBron years, I mean, we did shows every week, all the time. And man, when playoff season hit, it's hard to kind of answer the question, who is your favorite team? And I don't know. I love the Cleveland baseball team, the Indians, Guardians. I love the Buckeyes. I love the Cavs. I love the Browns. But I was thinking about it. I said, like, I played basketball in like 7th, 8th grade, and I wasn't very good. I wasn't. But then I got a basketball hoop at my house, and then I started just going to the rec center like every day after school and hooping it up for a couple hours, staying in shape, getting exercise, getting better at the game. I love the game of basketball. I love it. And for the Cavs to be 12-0, it's just you couldn't ask for a better start. So special thanks to Zach. Go follow him on X. All right, final reminder here, and then we're going to reboot in between shows. These are wood coasters, sets of four. The Unhappy Hour, one's shaped circular with the Unhappy Hour beer mug. The other is the Unhappy Hour with the mug, and it's shaped like the great state of Ohio. There's 4 per pack. They're wooden. They're laser engraved, burned in Ohio, Ohio-made product. This is the Unhappy Hour Sports Show pin. Only 100 of these will be made. So if you want to shoot me a Venmo at Brian Engelman, BrianEngelman, along with your address, and $75 gift, I will send you all 3 of these, postage included. But if you want just the pin, it's $25. If you want one of these, it's $30. If you want both of these, they're $50, postage included. So shoot me a Venmo along with your address as a gift, and I will send you this as appreciation for your gift, if interested. Okay, I'm going to hit reset, and we're going to come back on the other side. I believe we're going to have TV's Blake Wally joining us on the Agree to Disagree show, and we're going to cover all of the political stuff. It's going to be an interesting week. This is the first week of the new administration. Lots of things happening on the world stage, lots of appointments, lots of people accepting positions, and you're starting to see a brand new cabinet forming, and it's interesting. There are some wins and there are some big glaring question marks. We're going to talk about all of that on the other side, but special thanks to Kenneth and Ninja and everybody else in the chat room. We'll be back in a couple moments. Appreciate you. Love you. Talk to you.